everyone. This is Dimensions of the Supernatural. I'm Maureen Grudzinski, otherwise known as Witchy, and I'm here with my great co-host, Anthony Simonelli, otherwise known as Mr. Fuhgeddaboudit.
Fuhgeddaboudit. Hey, how you doing tonight? I'm back.
We are back together. This seems weird, doesn't it?
Yeah. I just want to apologize to the audience, for missing the 2 weeks. The first week I was at Fort Mifflin. I was invited by a group of investigators from England. The Rachel. I had to get her name.
Here we go.
I got caught somewhere. No,
people from England.
Ashman, Penny Morgan, and also Wes Coleman from Canada. And they invited me, Ronald Otis, on an investigation, and we did Fort Mifflin. So I'm sorry I took that night off. And this week, I became a grandfather. And so I had to take the night off. I'm sorry, but, I had my grandfather duties to do. So I'm back. So thank you for...
We're back together.
Yeah.
And but thank you, Jenny, for taking over.
Yeah, and Jenny, you did a wonderful job. Thank you.
She did. We had problems because of solar flares 1 week. We had issues because of, we've had all kinds of issues. So see what happens when you leave me?
I don't know. I leave you, and the universe just goes, solar flares, everything. I got to stick around. Something next time is just going to be an eclipse for like 48 hours, something like that,
Yeah. So we're really excited. I have been listening to The Edge of the Rabbit Hole for years, and this guy is super intelligent, and I really admire his work. There's so much more to unpack because he has so much work behind him, and I'm really excited to have him with us tonight. So without further ado, we're going to introduce him. This is Mike RICKSECKER. Thanks, Mike, for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Maureen. Thank you, Anthony. Anthony, congratulations on becoming a grandfather. That's fantastic.
Thank you. It's the first time, and I think I'm ready now.
Yeah, that's
I'm
wonderful.
old enough now to be more prepared for it. So
yeah. That's great.
So just to prepare you, Mike, we have a great comment section. We have lots of regulars, and they ask lots of questions, and they're super smart people. So get ready.
All right. All ready for it.
People saying hi to Mike already.
Do
you know this?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Cat Gash. Absolutely. Hi, Cat.
Yeah. So
our very
hello.
I'm
just going to pop them in
Our very first question that we ask everyone that's on our show is, how did you get involved in this? Because everyone has a different reason for it. How did you get involved in the paranormal?
I'm an experiencer. It goes back to when I was a child, about 8 years old. My first significant paranormal experience was we'd call a shadow person incident. It was one that was very, solid in nature, and I would never call that particular house a haunted house. It was like a one-off incident, but it was still really significant because this thing approached my bed and actually got interactive with me. It's like I'm trying to scream and nothing's coming out because I'm just too petrified, and it actually and I'm staring up in this blank black face. There's nothing there, no eyes, no nose, no mouth, nothing. It actually grabbed me by the wrist, crossed my arms across my body, and then ran off down the hall. And so, I was terrified. I ran and finally found my voice, found my legs, ran off screaming in my parents' bedroom. And they were trying to console me, trying to tell me I just had a bad dream, but I hadn't had a bad dream. I was awake for this whole thing. So that was like the first really significant experience that I had. But then when we moved from that house was in Massachusetts. We moved to a new house in Ohio, and all kinds of shadow activity going on there, unpacking boxes, putting things away, and there would be a figure standing in the doorway, very, very different than the one that I saw when I was 8. And now I was like about 13. This one was like really translucent, didn't get interactive at all. In fact, when I turn and look at it, it would just, would take off. And this happened like several times over the first, few weeks that we were there. And got to a point where, I finally asked my mother, okay, I keep seeing this thing. What do you think is going on? She actually admitted seeing this shadow too. She was like, oh, not alarmed about it. That, okay, this is interesting. For one, okay, affirmation. Mom has seen it too. I'm not crazy. But two, because she was so, nonplussed about the whole thing. Oh yeah, I've seen it too. I got playful with this thing. I started calling him Tom, like peeping Tom, because he'd peep in my room and, hi, Tom. So, that activity lasted there for about the first 3 or 4 months and just slowly kind of dissipated away. So I figured out, okay, something in the house, checking out the new family, deemed we were okay, and went about its business. So those were really my first significant experiences. And then like my first paranormal investigation would have been about a year and a half after moving into that house, because I would have been a freshman in high school. And my friend David and I were at our friend Lori's house, and we're just shooting the breeze in her living room, talking, teen drama, that sort of thing. And all of a sudden Lori says, I think my house is haunted. And David and I are like, whoa, okay, do tell. And so she's telling us some stories about the house. Yeah. It's an older house. It was like downtown. There's an old family cemetery in the backyard, these sorts of things. But her main concern was her bedroom upstairs. Like, anytime she would tack something up on the wall, like a poster or something, it would be an hour, a day, a week later, whatever it was, it would fall down. She couldn't keep anything tacked up on this wall. So it was like the haunted wall story. So David and I are like, all right, let's go upstairs and check it out. We're going to investigate, right? No idea what we're doing. So we go upstairs. No, I mean, this is, late 1980s. There's no ghost shows or anything like that are on TV. I mean, you may have seen a little bit of that sort of thing on In Search Of, but there wasn't anything like today.
Yeah, nobody talked to about it.
Right. Yeah. And I was in a small town at that point. So yeah, definitely nobody was talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
So we go upstairs to take a look. And so we're checking out this wall. Lori's continuing to tell us more stories. And David, I didn't realize this about him, but he was a very, very sensitive guy, like spiritually sensitive. And he put his hand flat to the wall like that, like right on the wall. And all of a sudden he turned this bright red and started sweating profusely. I'm looking at David like, oh my gosh, what's going on with my friend? I had never seen anything like this before. So he starts going like wall to wall in the house, touching all the walls, trying to find the, kind of quote unquote hot spots. And as I'm looking, at the walls, I'm looking at David, and just something just clicked right then that I was like, I have no idea what this is, but this is truly fascinating. In some way, shape, or form, I'm going to be connected to this type of phenomenon for the rest of my life. Here we are all these years later.
Yeah. All you need is that one experience that just continues to stay with you, and then just keeps you going forward. Just get answers. Why me? Well, why'd you come to me? Well, what makes me special? And that's what, and it just continues for the rest of your life.
It does. And it's one of those that, talking with people over the years, and what really was kind of eye-opening was like mid 1990s, the World Wide Web starts, getting bigger, and people start getting connected and finding those forums and groups, and, connecting with others across the world, and discovering that other people have had these experiences too. It's not just me. It wasn't just, a handful of people. It's a lot of people. And so, we start sharing stories and start, talking about, okay, what is this phenomenon? What are we dealing with here? And so that was really eye-opening for me. And come to realize, okay, we're not crazy. We're all experiencing this thing too. So, and that's something even today that I still adhere to, that, we're all here to, help each other through this, try to understand, and almost be like a support group for each other. We're trying to find answers. We're trying to investigate, trying to deduce what is actually going on. But there's a support mechanism, in place for all of us to come together as a community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
definitely.
And it's also now with our community, we try to help the people coming in where we didn't have that help. The young kids and stuff. when we do paracons, people come up to you and they start talking, especially the kids. They start, and their parents are like rolling their eyes and kids had this hobby, and the kids telling you stuff, and you're like, I tell the parents, you can't dismiss everything. It's not some just pay attention. It might not just be a childhood friend or an imaginary friend or something. Just pay attention. And the parents are like, yeah. But that's what you can do.
Yeah, and it's that kind of conditioning over the years, and I understand part of it. As parents, you want your children to feel safe. That's kind of priority number one. You want to create a safe and stable environment. So if they're getting frightened out of their mind, like my parents, my first incident, they're trying to tell me, well, I just had a bad dream. That's their initial reaction. Calm him down, try to ensure him that he's safe. Well, it was just a bad dream. Maybe they would have thought differently if that particular entity kept visiting again and again and again. I was getting scared, but that didn't happen. And then the other one, later on, I think it was just because, one, I was a little bit older at that point, and two, I think because it just was seemingly harmless. It wasn't interactive like that first one that my mom was just like, yeah, it's here. So that was helpful. But yeah, there are others that unfortunately they suppressed that for far too long when there's a lot of that exhibited behavior. And
I mean, like we always talk about it didn't really open up to what was it, 2004 2005 when the TV shows started becoming popular and everybody's like, oh, that's cool. Before that it was really set down, and it's more open now than back then, but you still got those. You can't. I go in public and I just tell what I do because I don't care anymore. I've been doing that for a long time. And the funny thing, do you believe in ghosts? I've been doing it. Yeah, I think I might. It's like, what do you answer to that? Do you believe it? I just told you I do paranormal investigations. Do you believe in ghosts? So
they kind of go hand in hand,
Yeah.
Although there are several investigators that I know that they have not experienced anything, and one of the reasons why they're investigating is so that they can finally see what's really going on. So there are some people that are like that.
Yeah.
The interesting part about this, Maiko, is that you had an experience in the first house, and then you went to the next house, and there was an experience there as well. And not everyone gets that, unless they're investigating someplace. You had 2 experiences in 2 different houses. So you're like a beacon for these things. It's not that you just had one experience and you're all fired up and you want to keep doing this.
Well, I mean, I will say, 'cause people ask me, do I have abilities, that sort of thing. And I'm guilty of not admitting that, yes, I do have something going on. I would never say that I'm psychic or anything like that. But I would say that I have some sensitivities, that I am a bit intuitive and that sort of thing. That first incident at that house, it was a one-off. We lived there for 10 years and it was the only incident. So a few years ago, I actually had a hypnotic regression to try to find out more details about that one incident. What exactly was it? Why was it crossing my arms? Why did it only happen one time? Because that, second house, it made sense. It was visiting us for a while, and then it kind of just gave up. Yeah, okay, they're cool. So what I discovered, without getting too detailed because it's kind of a long story, essentially what it was doing there was it was a being that was from what we would call another dimension. It called it another space, but it was really from another dimension that was there on essentially a mission to study humanity, and didn't realize when it was in that room that I could see it until I started reacting to it. And what it did, the whole crossing the arms, was it was trying to put me in a little bit of self-hug. I could see a different perspective of the incident where I could see it actually pat my wrist to try to calm me down a little bit. And then it got out of there so it could stop scaring me. But yeah, it was on a mission there to study humanity and was assigned to the room of a child that night. And so, and it never came back.
But it was like the dark figure, which everybody thinks is, a shadow person. Right. And that's demons. Everybody's all about demons, but it's just just a thing from another dimension. So that's interesting that it could be cleared up that way.
Yeah, I mean, a shadow entity can be a lot of different things. And I know, some people they've had some really harrowing incidents with shadows. I saw my friend Chris DeCesare down there in the chat, and I know he's had some pretty terrible experiences with shadows, like when he was in college. Yeah. But others have had like actually benevolent experiences where they've been helpful. But a lot of times they're more, benign. They're neither good nor evil. They're kind of just watching and observing. But there can be a lot of different things like ETs, extraterrestrials. It could be interdimensional. They could be human spirits. Sure, they could be what we would call demonic. They could even be light beings or time slips, and we're just kind of getting a glimpse of another point in time, and it's not resonating in our dimension properly. So they can be a lot of different things.
We all look very different, so why couldn't they?
Yeah, exactly.
And that spirit that you experienced the one time when you were a kid, when you crossed your arms out, he might have been there all along, and just one night you've seen him. So he might have been there all that time, and one night you experienced him. It might be being somewhere else. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's another thing. When we talk about other dimensions, I mean, our consciousness is in the fourth dimension. We see third, second, first below us, but our theoretical physics shows us there's up to 11 hyperspatial dimensions. So those others that are beyond us, 5, 6, 7, 8, we don't see them. We don't have the proper geometry to be able to capture it. But sometimes that energy does filter down into our dimension, and we get a glimpse of it. So yeah, there are other beings and other entities, other things around us all the time that we don't always see, but they're there with us. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's so fascinating.
Absolutely.
You experience all these things. Like I've experienced them since I was a kid too. So I know what you went through going through with, not being able to talk about and all that stuff.
Right.
And the things you see, I know I've seen former, like grandparents and stuff like that. But that's what I experienced, as a kid. But the shadows, I mean, how many places we've done investigations, we see shadows outside the place, like we're going from place to place, from tree to tree or whatever. So yeah, it could be shadows of spirits, I think, and like you said, interdimensional, from stars. So, yeah, that's
absolutely. Yeah, in my docu-series, The Shadow Dimension, one of the individuals that helped me with that project, that helped with some of the interviews, Mark Anthony, he's a psychic medium. He's known as the Psychic Explorer, psychic lawyer as well. And he had a great line that I loved it when he said it for that. He said, we could be observing several different species that are using a similar energetic modality to enter into our dimension. And it was perfect line, because we are dealing with a lot of different things that are manifesting here.
Yeah, that's a great way to explain it. I mean, I've seen all kinds of things. I've seen just the shape of a body on a ceiling, and it had like just the edges of color. And I've seen things that kind of had like jagged edges, but it was more grayish in the middle. So that kind of might be something like what you've seen. I've seen shadow people. I've seen spirits. I've seen, full-blown alien type things in different colors, and they all looked completely different. It was kind of like, Monster Inc. thrown together with Minions and, Men in Black. And the only way to explain it is kind of like how Anthony and I explain it. It's, everybody's got different ethnicities and, different colors and whatever. And they're kind of like, some of them are goofy looking. Some of them are really kind of scary looking, but they're funny, and they are really funny and sarcastic sometimes.
Well, yeah, and I feel kind of bad for them sometimes, because we do tend, because as humans, we're trying to make sense of all of this, and so we categorize, compartmentalize. So a lot of people say, okay, these are shadow people, and they lump them all together. And so I can imagine some of these entities that, yes, they come off as shadows in our dimension, that do good things or just watching, observing, and you got the ones over there that are doing what we would call evil. And so now all shadows are evil. And I can imagine when I was like, hey, I'm not like that jerk over there. What gives?
Yeah. And I think because when, I've been seeing these things since I was really little, and it didn't scare me, and I've had all kinds of connections with them. So I try to, wait to see how they interact with me. And if they're not harming me, I just kind of go with it. Some of them have made me laugh hysterically. Some of them have like rolled their eyes, and that's kind of how I am. So that is really funny to me that they have the same kind of, comedic sense of humor, or this sarcasm, or, whatever. And it's interesting to see how they respond the way we do sometimes. And some of them, they look really angry, or they, you would think that they would be scary, and they're really not. And we're ready to like, fly through the ceiling, or, jump out the window or whatever. And they're just super chill and funny and whatever. And we're like, oh my God, this is crazy, that I love.
We don't understand a lot of that stuff too, because it's beyond, what we know. So we don't always, believe.
It's beyond our imagination.
Yeah. It's above our pay grade.
All of ours.
Yeah.
So we already have questions.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So, I mean, when it comes to writers, producers, networks, I mean, when it comes to television, it all comes down to money. Is it going to sell? And so, like you saw the progression, Anthony was talking about it earlier with television early on when it first started to come out. It was, I find it was acceptable to just have your investigators walking around trying to find a ghost, or, to deduce if it was a haunting. And you might have had like 2 or 3 episodes out of the season where something was actually found and they debunked everything else. Well, that wasn't good enough. Now you go a couple seasons with that, and no, we need to work in more and more actual hauntings and shows that have ghosts. So now every episode has a ghost in it, right? Every location we go to is haunted. And so we do a few seasons of that. And then it's like, no, it's not good enough anymore. We need to up the game again. And so, now everything's demonic, right? So, there's a natural progression, because they have to keep, okay, what's the next step? What's the next step? And that's television. And so, writers and producers and networks are going to play into that psychology with their audience and try to get as much traction with it as they can until the interest wanes, and then it's on to the next subject. So
I think they're running down. We know other people that have been on shows, popular people, and now they're with the shows, and they're doing stuff on YouTube and doing stuff on their own. Yeah. And they feel, if they say it's like a sense of relief off their chest, because they could do what they want now. There's no rules, but there's no, you can't do this, you can't do this, you have to do this, and it's no rules. So
and you never know how what you put out there is going to be interpreted, or how they're going to edit the story. So and I've been shows like that before, where they took the story that I presented and chopped it up and switched things around, and I've watched it and like, oh no. And so I'm getting on social media and having to explain away that no, that's not the way things really went down, which is unfortunate.
It is. It really is. So unless you're starting from the beginning and doing the whole thing yourself, there's no way of telling the true story.
There's a lack of control. Fortunately, a lot of the ones that I've been on are just, they've had me on there as like a subject matter expert, SME. So like Ancient Aliens or the Unexplained. Okay, tell us about, kind of like what we're doing here. Tell us about shadow people. Tell us about the Alaska Triangle. Tell us about whatever's going on with UFOs. Like, okay, boom, boom, boom. So those are, you have a bit of a sense of relief with those, and they're not going to really twist my words too much. They're looking for some sound bites in there on a particular subject. So those are much better.
Yeah. And that's what we're really looking for. We're looking for the truth, because, unless all you want is entertainment, we're looking to find out what's actually happening. We want questions answered, that's what we're all here for. I mean, for the most part, anyone who's watching podcasts or listening to, some kind of streaming channel, or hopefully started watching the shows, and, the shows that I always say, the name that we shall not say, we shall not mention. We're here to talk about the real deal, like how you said that you were there as a subject expert for, then we'll mention the TV shows, Ancient Aliens, the UnXplained, the Alaska Triangle, Fright Club. I'm a big fan of Fright Club, The Haunted, and then you have multiple series on Gaia. But I mean, unless you're watching to be afraid or to hear some kind of fake spin on it, you're really looking to hear what actually truly happened. So
Right.
what, I mean, why are you really there?
When we did The Haunted, that was the first show that I was on, and that was, oh my gosh, that was over 12 years ago now. Well, we filmed that in 2010. That was 14 years ago now. Oh my God.
Seems like yesterday.
It does. It really does. That one, you stayed pretty authentic to what happened. They did a really good job with that show. I think that it was only like 2.5 seasons, but at least with the one that I was involved with, they stayed fairly authentic. There's only one little thing that was off, and that was, and I don't know why they switched this up, because they showed when we're doing the cleansing of the house. We had Carl Johnson that was out there. We're going through, and the daughter Taliesin had come in from outside. We had told the family to stay outside while we did the interior, and she had come in to use the restroom. And all of a sudden, we find her in the master bedroom. She's talking at something unseen against the wall. So Carl decides to do a blessing over her. And all of a sudden, she doubles over in pain, like she got punched in the gut. She kind of falls to the floor, and we get her up. We put her on the bed. And when I went back, and she was okay, and we continued on. But when I went back over my audio after the fact, there was an EVP right there when she got punched in the gut that said "die." I was like, well, that's really powerful. So, of course, I gave that to the network. Yeah. So it made that moment like really, really powerful. Not only, did we have the visual of her getting punched in the gut, but, you got the EVP right there. Well, is the only thing they really screwed up on the whole show is they actually moved that EVP to an earlier investigation that we did and said that this is the reason why we were going to do the cleansing of the house. It was like they used that as, the reason, to give us, okay, we're going to do the cleansing of the house because we got that die EVP. It's like, oh no.
Because it was more impact if they left it in.
If they left it right where it's supposed to be, it was so much more impactful. I mean, we can cleanse the house because they just want the thing gone, 20 years worth of the activity, they want it gone. So that was the only thing, like the wind kicking up the cats running around like crazy, all of that stuff. I mean, all that really happened. So they did a really good job with that show, actually, except for that one little bit. I was like, oh man.
And that alone, I mean, just like with the wind picking up and the cats running around, that's not typical for the most part in people's homes. And then that happening is just enough to send someone out.
Yeah. What was crazy about it was because that happened in the backyard, because we'd done everything inside and other things that were going on. So when she got punched in the gut and when Carl was doing that blessing, the back door started blowing open. They didn't even show that in the show at all. The back door started blowing open, close it, blew back open again, close it, deadbolt the thing. Carl does a blessing over the door. We had a tri-field meter over by the closet in her bedroom where she kept seeing this entity with red eyes. That thing started going off like crazy. So all this stuff started happening. So we continue on with the blessing, push it out the back, and the wind kicking up was in the backyard, and it got really, really strong. And again, the cats were circling us. And we finally got done, and Carl pushed out, and everything just died down. We went over to the side yard to let the family know that we were done, and we made these remarks like, wow, that wind got really crazy, didn't it? And it's not a big yard. It's really small. And they were like, what wind? They did not feel it over there whatsoever. So
that's so weird.
Really?
That was a crazy night, but yeah. But we've been in contact with them since all these years later, and they're fine. Everything's been good since then. Yeah.
I always wonder, like, what happened, because they'll say, you know, there's still a little bit of activity, but we couldn't get rid of everything, and we'll follow up with them and blah, blah, blah. But then they never, you know, it would be interesting to see.
Yeah, let's see the follow-up.
Yeah, I mean, they do it with like the Psychic Kids show, and like now they have a new Psychic Kids show, and those Psychic Kids are like kind of teaching the newer ones. So that was interesting, but they never really get back with the people to see, like, are they in a new house and now there's something else happening, or nothing.
Yeah, I had because I was out in Oklahoma, and I moved from there a few years later, and I had been in somewhat regular contact with them. They were fine that whole time. And then a couple of years ago, you know, Carl and I were talking about that case, and he decided to follow up with them. And this was only like 2 or 3 years ago. And you know, they were like, yeah, everything's still been fine. It's been good. So it's like, okay, that's really, really good to hear that all these years later, they're fine now. Yeah.
It's just really strange. And like the cats are weird, because the cats are around you, but that's where the entity was. They usually don't get closer to something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe you have a possibility they were trying to help.
Yeah, maybe. I'm sorry, I'm looking at your question down here. Burn out those that are personally affected by the. I guess
that was like the part 2 to the other question.
Okay. All right. I guess I'm not quite following, but okay. The burnout of, I mean, I see burnout, and I'm like, investigation burnout, but I don't think that's what the question is talking about. That's okay.
That's the second part too. Do you have any thoughts on the influence or pro con of writers, producers on the collective consciousness of their target audiences?
Right, which we addressed.
So this is like a second part to it.
That are personally affected by the as far as like viewers watching that, and then okay,
personal affected by Paranormal.
I don't know. I guess if we get a little bit more clarification, it's the question. Yeah,
I'm not sure. I think she was asking if you get burnt out from the phenomenon, but I guess I'm not sure.
Won't that eventually lead to diminishment of those? Poofy, you want to maybe add to that so he can answer? She said, if it makes sense, if it makes no sense, skip it.
Okay.
So Kat has a question. Sure. I love this too, because I'm really interested in this. Do you think the Philadelphia experiment really took place?
I don't know. That's up for debate, because you have both sides that that give good arguments for whether it did or whether it didn't. I wasn't there, you know. So, you know, is it possible that it happened? Yeah. But you have a lot of other and actually, you know, pretty reputable people in the field that say no, it didn't really happen. So, kind of, I'll say I'm leaning toward not, but I think the idea behind it is possible, but it may not have specifically happened with that ship.
Yeah, it's funny because I just know somebody just investigated Fort Hood in Montauk where the experiments happened. They doing over there. So it's like somebody said, "Oh, I just went to Fort Hood," and now this question comes up. It's like,
it's just such a cool topic, though.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I seen the movie.
Right.
The movie exists.
The movie exists. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, we can't skip this one because of who it is. If you could seek out information and experience on any.
You love to study.
Haven't you experienced enough?
Yeah. I mean, I've been doing a lot of research here lately on, I mean, my latest book on time travel, real time travel. I'm in the middle of writing a book on stargates. So that sort of realm, investigations into the idea of portals, wormholes, stargates, time travel. Yeah.
I love that. during a cleansing and blessing, this is Todd and Carmela, is there an immediate response or may it take some time to notice it has worked for a location?
An immediate, for the cleansing?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for them, it was immediate. So, I mean, there have been other places that we have cleansed, and keep in mind, it's been a while since I've done investigations where we've also done the cleansings afterwards. But I mean, there have been times we've had to go back and do repeated cleansings. So in those cases, it's taken a while. But in that particular case, for that family there in Oklahoma, it was immediate. So that was really successful and kind of a rarity. Yeah.
And you said you went to Carl Johnson?
Yeah, it was all Carl. No, well, here's what it is. It was the intention. It was the intention that we set forth. The intention from the energy that the family put out. It was their intention. We want this gone. It was the intention of us as investigators. We want to push this thing out and get rid of it. And I think that plays a lot into it, is that intention that you put forth. So we all believed in the method that was happening. So if you have a I don't know, we'll just say that maybe you have an indigenous family that's having issues in their household, and you bring in maybe Christian practices to try to push that out. They're not going to be fully they're not going to fully embrace the methodology behind it. So their intention is not going to be, pure in trying to push it out. So you would probably have it lingering on afterward again. So I think that plays a lot into it too, because I'll have people like, what's the best method for cleansing? I was like, well, something that you believe is going to work, right? Because you have to have that what I believe 100% believe. They have to put those intentions forth, and that you're all solid on it.
Yeah. I mean, I've been part of cleansings of a house. I know this one person particular. I know a couple people. One person in particular. We cleansed the house like 3 times, and I don't think she wanted it to leave. I don't think her intentions were there. We came in, we did what we had to do, and it disappeared for a short time. Then it came back. And I don't think her intentions was to let it go.
Right. I've been on cases like that where there's a part of them that says, no, I want this gone. I want it to stop bothering me. But there's a part of them that also relishes in the activity. And it's almost because it kind of gives them attention. Like it's a story that we can talk about. I've had this going on. And so, I know. 3
years I worked on that case.
Yeah.
3 years. And it's after a while, it's like, what can we do? It's like, here's another priest. It's like,
there's only so much you can do.
Right.
Yeah. And we do check in on her every so often, but still, it's like a lost cause. You want to help, and I brought in 3 different people to help her, and it's the same intentions. I don't think she wanted it to go.
Right.
That's what we came across. Yeah.
Nope, I agree.
So, but it's Jenny.
Oh, good question. That got it right. So, okay, since the latest thing I've been writing about is time travel, I think Interstellar, their concept of the Tesseract and being able to, when he had to pick the right moment in his daughter's bedroom to deliver the message, the idea that all time is concurrent and to higher dimensions is like an object. Time is like an object to those other dimensions. I think they got that right. It might look differently than our interpretation, or it's Christopher Nolan's interpretation of it, but I think it was definitely on the right track with that. Yeah.
Do you believe that, because now with the time travel, you just wrote a book about? I haven't read your book yet, but do you feel that some people travel back in time and like part of our government now, or part of something going on in the world, like some big how am I trying to say?
I mean, I believe we have time travelers. Yeah, time travelers are among
now,
us.
and they're staying here to make things change for the future. Something like that.
Yeah, because we see little tweaks,
Terminator
things
movie, where they come
happen.
back in time.
Yeah, yeah. Like the whole idea of the Mandela effect. Now I don't think people are coming back and changing how Fruit Loops is spelled, or you know, the branding of Fruit. I mean, that's really trivial.
Yeah.
How's Oscar Mayer spelled? Change the A and the E around. Nobody's coming back in time to do that. But I do believe that because of changes that have happened in the timeline, that there are ripple effects, like the butterfly effect. And so we're seeing some of those things transpired just because of the effect of other things that have happened throughout the timeline.
We have people who are just everyday people who are changing past because, like, someone, for me, as an example, I can help someone change their past lives to change something that's happening now to
Right.
kind of, fix something that's a problem. So if you go back to your past life and you were dealing with, a constant abusive cycle, you
Yep.
fix that in your past, you can fix something now. So it doesn't even have to be governmental type things.
Oh, no. You can totally do that on your own. It's the consciousness again is the fourth dimension, what we call time. It's inside the third dimensional vessel. And so when we work with hypnosis or work with psychic mediums, when we sleep and we dream, our consciousness can free float, and so we can go to the past and we can go to the future,
Right.
and do different things. But yeah, I've seen and been a part of things that you could say is future influencing the past.
Right.
And I have a couple of different stories in that regard, but since we've been talking mostly about hauntings and this sort of thing here, so we were on a investigation. It was a restaurant at the time called Johnny V's. It was out in Muskogee, Oklahoma, and we had a decent time investigating that particular night, and a number of hauntings reported over the years there. So we're just winding down the investigation. There are a couple guys up in the bar area, a couple others out in the front restaurant area, and I decided to do a final photo sweep of the restaurant. So as I'm walking through the main door of the kitchen, all of a sudden I see just this wisp of a shadow just dart across the room, and boom, it hit this side door. That it's just this little flimsy metal door that waiters and waitresses would carry large trays of food through into the back restaurant area. Something that you could like tap your finger with and it would swing open like that. Except the thing is, it didn't move at all. You heard the bang, but no movement at all of that door. So I call out to others, hey, did you guys hear that? And they're like, yeah, we heard that. And so I start describing to them what happened. Then I start thinking, these guys messing with me. I'm like, did you guys throw something at the door, to try to spook me or whatever? They're like, no, and it would have been a heck of a throw anyways. Cause like I said, those others that were out in the front restaurant area and a couple of guys from the bar that were up top, it was like a loft area. There's no way they were making that. But I went out and opened the door and I'm looking down the ground. No, there's nothing on the ground. So what in the world happened here? So I cover this in my book, A Walk in the Shadows, because it is a shadow person type of an incident, because it was a little wispy shadow thing. And I cover it in Travels Through Time as well, because this actually could be some sort of time slip incident. So what I think happened is I walked through that main door to the kitchen and it saw me. I don't know if it saw me as a shadow. I don't know if it saw me as a ghost or whatever, but I scared it because that thing took off like crazy. And when it hit that door, I think what happened was in its dimension, or in its point in time, it ran right through that door. That door blew wide open and he or she ran right through. But myself being either in another dimension or another point in time, the door stayed still. However, sound works on a different wavelength, a different frequency. So I was able to hear that and not see it happen. So let's throw this out there. So what if, let's say this was some sort of time slip where, I'd scared somebody from, we'll say 20 years beforehand, right? Like the early 1980s. And that became, and and maybe again, it saw me as a shadow, maybe it saw me as a ghost. So maybe that became one of the stories of the restaurant being haunted. And is it possible that we were there investigating that day because of this haunting that was reported back in the 1980s? That was really me walking into the kitchen.
Yeah.
So it's paradoxical in nature, but it would be me from their future influencing their present.
That's sometimes,
I love that.
you know, I've thought about that with some of the stuff that we do and some of the evidence that we get. And I was always, maybe it's somebody from the future visiting us, like you're saying. And I was always interested in that. You're the first person that actually said that, because every time I say that, people just like walk away from me.
Well,
it's
you have to consider it. So, okay, we're doing.
I think that's something from the past. It could be something from the future.
It could be. Back. Oh, absolutely. So we're just doing an investigation at Ohio State Reformatory. We had the Parapsychon event this past weekend. We're doing the celebrity ghost hunt, and so the four in our group there was me, Brian Cano, Aaron Sagers, John Zaffis, and you know we're kind of
what a team that is.
Yeah. No, it was great. So you know we're kind of throwing some pointers out there to the group, and each of us kind of walk them through a few different, because we had like 20 minutes for each group as they came through. But one of the things that I threw out there to the group was, okay, we're asking a lot of the questions pertaining to the past, and this particular area of the prison was the administration section, and it was the area where a lot of dignitaries would come, and they had a little stage there where the band would play for the dignitaries, this sort of thing. So that's where a lot of the questions were coming from. I was like, well, keep this in mind. We may not just be dealing with beings or people or entities from the past. If all time is concurrent, we could be dealing with people from the future. So since what is coming down the road in the future for this building is mostly paranormal investigations, we could actually be communicating with paranormal investigators 10, 20 years from now. So you could direct some questions in that area too, in that regard. Try to find out, okay, who are we dealing with, the past or the future?
Yeah, the last 2 weeks we have been talking about this because maybe we're like the others, and
that's a great example. That movie's a great example.
We have no idea.
Yeah. So the question earlier of, which movies kind of got it right with the others, I believe is one. Yeah. Somewhere in Time is another as well.
Yeah. That's such an interesting concept. It really is. Mm-hmm. I've been thinking about that for a long time. Like I said, you're the first person I ever mentioned that I agree with that. Nobody listens to me. Nobody listens to me. Maureen.
I listen to you all the time.
You have no choice.
Well, maybe. I love the whole concept about the time travel, and things like that have happened to me several times where I've packed a certain amount of things, I've used only a couple, I've tried to put them back into a bottle, the bottle's sealed when I get back home, the amount of pills are missing. Like, how do you explain it? You know what I mean? It's just totally unexplainable. Or the captain's speaking and he says, we will be descending in a certain amount of time. I get everything unpacked. By the time I do that, then it's time to get everything back out again. And everybody's waking up from a nap. And I'm like, I didn't even have time to unpack my stuff.
Right.
Why? You know what I mean? It's just a weird feeling when you're in that position. It's, where did the time go?
Yeah, time is not exactly what we think is. Well, I mean, time doesn't really exist anyway. I mean, that's just it's a human construct used to describe a reality. It's for us to try to keep track of things while we're living our lives. But yeah, it doesn't really exist.
No,
it's definitely not there when you go to Walmart. It just goes. You're stuck.
That's the future of Walmart people.
Yeah.
But, so you have that. Let's see what the question is first. On time travel, I was going to change it.
Okay, Billy, what was in contact? Okay, well, I'll say this: they are in the process of developing wormholes in the lab. In fact, it was about a year and a half ago where they had confirmed that they had created a tiny wormhole in the lab on the quantum level. So yeah, they are trying to do that. Now, I think that there are portals and wormholes that are accessible to us here, and it's kind of a matter of finding them. I believe the ancients had that type of technology when we were talking like stargates and things like this. We see that symbolism all over ancient Egypt, and it's in other cultures. Yeah, they definitely had that sort of technology. So they do exist here. And then some of these like missing people's cases or missing airplanes, you know, they very well could have passed through some sort of portal. And in fact, I'm in the middle of writing an article on this for my blog. It'll be released tomorrow because Ronnie LeBlanc and I had a interesting conversation about this the other week on my show, Connecting the Universe. The idea that, you know, some of these people, I mean, a lot of people go missing out in the woods, things like this. David Paulides has done a lot of great work on that. I covered it a lot in my book, The Alaska Triangle, but some people do come back. And a number of those people that come back say, I don't know what happened. I heard a noise off in the woods. I took 2 steps off the path, couldn't find what was making the noise, turned around to get back on the path, and the path was gone. You know, and then they're lost in the woods for days because they can't find the path. They took 2 steps. And so what happened when they took those 2 steps? Did they pass through some sort of portal or Stargate or some sort of, you know, slip in time or something, right? So it's an interesting question, and I believe we do have these sorts of anomalies on Earth today. Yeah.
I mean,
This is a great question.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So yeah, deja vu would be I wouldn't say necessarily a time slip, but actually a traversing into time, traveling in time to some point. And there's a couple different ways to look at this. So a lot of our deja vus, okay, we're you know, familiar with the moments, like I've been here before, this has happened before. I think a lot of the deja vus come out of, you know, fragments of dreams that we've had. That and again, we talked about that earlier, where, you know, when we enter into those different brainwave states while we dream, the consciousness, you know, does have the ability to free float and move into other points in time. Now, sometimes a dream is just a dream, but sometimes we can move into another point in time. But when we wake, sometimes, you know, we have a very vivid memory of what that dream was, and sometimes, you know, you'll have a dream and like, hey, you know, I had an interesting dream last night, and you try to start to tell the story, and all of a sudden you kind of like lose it all, right? You can't remember like a couple little bits. And so I think some of the deja vus are, yes, we had moved into another point in time in our dream, got a glimpse of it, and we're only bringing a fragment back, and all of a sudden we end up at that place or wherever it is, and it's like, this seems familiar. But there's another way that I believe that we are having deja vu. So if all time is concurrent, past, present, future are all here, and you believe in reincarnation, then that means, yeah, all of your lives, past, present, and future, all of them are right here, right now. And if we were to go down the rabbit hole of the connected, or not the connected universe, if we were to go down the rabbit hole of the simulated universe, and the idea that we are in a simulation, then that would mean that wherever that is that we're coming into the simulation from, all of those lives would be projected into this world. That said, let's say you walk into, let's say it's a historic house somewhere, and you walk into a room, you're like, this is really familiar. There's a possibility that one of your past lives is in that room with you that very moment.
That's
and they're
creepy.
just living out their life. Yeah. And that's why it seems familiar to you. Yeah.
That happens a lot. I know that happens to me a lot. Locations,
I
like,
get that a lot
you
too.
walk into that place, and then you go there to investigate, and like,
Yeah.
how come this looks so familiar? And
Yep.
it's weird because you actually, that location, you know where you're going.
Right.
It's not like, oh, you know,
Yeah.
there's a room here, and you just walked into this place, brand new, and you know where everything is. I had
Right.
that.
I have another idea on that that's not so supernatural in nature, and it has nothing to do with time travel. There is a genetic explanation for it as well. That could be a possibility. And that is, it could be something that has been handed down from one of your ancestors. Perhaps one of your ancestors had lived or visited there, and that genetic marker, that memory, was put in place inside their DNA and passed down to you. As long as that happened before, they begat your ancestor that eventually, you came from. So that, as long as that genetic marker was put in place, and it's possible you could have that memory or that familiarity of that location from your ancestor. So that's another possibility on the table it's not really supernatural in nature, but
that's definitely a cool way to think about it, though.
That is, that's just walk into a place. I'm gonna walk into myself in a different version of myself.
Right.
Hey, I like you better than me. Let's trade.
Yeah, let's switch it back. Yeah.
Let's switch back. Come on, do me a solid.
That happens when you see someone and you think that they really look familiar, and you swear you know them from someplace.
Right, and you just might. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that too once in a while too. Deja vu. I get that a lot. All that stuff.
Oh, for sure. Well, and I do believe in soul families and things like that. So people you meet along the way in life. I mean, they're people that you've traveled through in multiple incarnations. Yeah. So you meet somebody you see, like just for example, the first time that I met Andrea Perrin, what was that? It was just before the first Conjuring movie came out. We did an event together. We were right across from each other, and we just instantly, hey, and we walked up to each other and we just like hug. It's like we kind of instantly knew, like, at some point in a past life we were brother and sister. She was like my older sister somewhere. We just instantly knew it.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's interesting. That's very interesting.
And I believe that if you go to a concert and you're in this big stadium with all these people, that at some point in a past life you were watching gladiators in like the Colosseum with all those people as well.
Yeah. Absolutely.
One day I'll get that. We get hypnotized and see what my past lives are. That'd be interesting.
So your show, The Shadow Dimension.
Yeah.
This is a docu-series. It's on all different forms of paranormal. Correct?
Yeah, I mean, The Shadow Dimension 6-part docuseries. It's on Tubi TV, Roku channel, a couple other places right now. So the primary focus of it was to go to locations that have reported shadow activity as well as portal activity, and see if there's some sort of correlation between the two, whether the shadows were entering there through the portals, or if they were using that energy there to each manifest and spawn up. So a little bit of a challenge in filming, because it was during COVID. We started filming there in August 2020, so it was a little difficult. There are a number of there are more places that we wanted to get to, but basically we covered the Conjuring House, we covered Mineral Springs Hotel in Alton, Illinois, but we got into a lot of different topics there. So I had a number of people share their stories of different places where they had experienced shadows, and the way they had experienced those particular shadows. So a lot of different stories in a lot of different ways that they were manifesting. We also have an episode called Ancient Origins. So it got into where we see shadow entities in ancient history, like Egypt, Samaria, and other locations. So yeah, it was fun to do it. I have a second part that is coming out. I was going to do 6 more episodes to do like a second season, but instead it's turning out to be an hour-and-a-half long documentary as a follow-up for that. So that's going to be The Shadow Dimension Beyond the Shadows.
Oh, cool.
That is.
Love that.
It's on TV now.
There is another question, but I wanted to ask you this. So
Sure.
Do you believe in the whole theory of the Anunnaki?
Yeah.
And you do?
Well, okay. Which theory of the Anunnaki? Because there are several. Yeah.
Well, the fact that there were Anunnaki, and do you believe that they were mixed and mingled with the humans.
Okay. Yes, the Anunnaki did exist. There certainly was some mingling there with the humans, and yeah, it's a really fascinating area to research because, okay, exactly how much did they interact and intermingle with the humans? There are people that on this earth today that believe that they have Anunnaki blood within them. So there's that aspect of it. There's an idea out there that they made us a slave race to work for them, and then Inky, one of the Anunnaki, kind of helped to give us that knowledge to break free. And we see that imagery though throughout a lot of other different cultures. That transference of knowledge from higher beings to us. So we see it with Thoth in Egypt. We see it with Quetzalcoatl there in Mesoamerica. So there's something that happened, and it happened cross-culturally across the world with cultures that were not supposed to have been connected according to traditional history, but yet obviously they were, because we're seeing the same stories proliferated across the globe. So something happened. So whether they were really called Anunnaki or they were called something else, that just might be ancient Sumer's way of interpreting what happened. But there was somebody there. Yeah.
Cool. So if he wants to know, do you believe that a full moon can affect you in any way?
Anybody who has children knows that's true.
I agree. We're grandchildren.
Yeah, I mean, it absolutely does. Yeah, my mother never had to look up when the full moon was. She worked at a school. When the kids were going crazy, she knew that there was a full moon coming.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it makes sense because of, what we're almost 90% water, our bodies, and we know that the moon affects the water and the tides here on Earth. So I
see that all the time, and our brains are 90% water. So
yeah, and that's where we get the term lunatic.
Yeah.
So, I don't howl at the moon, but yeah.
Well, some people do.
Some people do, yeah.
We won't mention names out there in the comment section, people. You have a class called Connecting the Universe. You even have a portal for it. It's interesting that there's a portal involved.
That's right. Connect the Universe.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about your classes and what you're teaching?
Absolutely. So, a variety of different topics. So every Wednesday night, 8:00 p.m. Eastern time. And you had mentioned Edge of the Rabbit Hole earlier. So we're doing that once a month now as part of Connecting the Universe. It was one of those where I was doing both Connecting the Universe and Edge of the Rabbit Hole as separate entities, and it was just too much with everything else I had going on. So we'd actually stopped doing Edge of the Rabbit Hole for over a year. But we all missed it. So it's like, okay, how do we bring this back? So I brought it back as a once a month with Connecting the Universe. So basically take a topic and run with it. So we've done a lot of stuff on ancient Egypt. We've done stuff on ghosts and hauntings. We've done stuff on portals. Pick a topic: Mandela effect, time travel, all of those topics, consciousness. And so the way it works is, we have basically a full class, almost an hour, that we do there on Wednesday nights. That's publicly available. And then we have the after show part of it where we keep going after that. That's the member side of it. And so they get some extra material, and of course, whatever, their questions that they want answered. And if it's, if we're doing the Edge of the Rabbit Hole episode, then we have our guests stick around for a little while longer too. So that's a treat for the members. And what the Connect the Universe portal is basically it's a community membership site. So where like-minded people come together, we talk about all these different topics. Yes, there's the full Connecting the Universe class that's out there, but all of my stuff on time travel, I've got all of the full video blogs from ancient Egypt, American Southwest, Ireland, all that stuff is back there. I've got Mike's Morning Mugs videos, which is kind of like a little sit down. Hey, we're going to have coffee with Mike, and we do some live ones of those. Got monthly Q&As out there, other articles, and just there's a whole bunch of content back there. And so, yeah, that's the portal.
That sounds like a lot for you to be doing. Do you
Just a
sleep?
little bit. No, that's the thing. I just don't sleep. And now I have a blog that goes along with it. I mean, I had sort of a small one there on the portal site, but I created a Substack one here a few months ago, and so that's connecteduniverse.substack.com. And so, but this is like a more fully fleshed out blog. So I did like a daily blog while I was out there in Egypt. Like I said, I have an article coming out here tomorrow on the portals out in the wilderness. So there's a lot more stuff out there too.
Egypt must be interesting.
You know? Oh, it's fascinating. Yeah, it's totally life changing when you go there. Yeah. Every time I go there, it's just something else happens. There's some new discovery. I'm transformed in some way. It's amazing.
That's why
I've always wanted to go.
Yeah, but it's always interesting. So, you know what I'm going to ask about the triangle in Alaska. I'm very interested in that. Did you want to say something? Did I cut you off?
No, I was just going to say we're going to be going back again next year. We're doing a yearly tour, so to Egypt. So, but go ahead with your question.
No, I just, with the Alaska Triangle, I just, just started following about that. Mm-hmm. Of course, growing up, we learned about the Bermuda Triangle.
Right.
And I know Alaska Triangle, isn't it like bigger and more people disappear there, or things disappear there that they can't find anymore? What do you think? Is that part of the time travel, or is that?
Well, it can be.
Or is that just something in the atmosphere bringing these ships down and then whatever, they can't find them in all that land? What do you think that has to do with?
Yeah, I mean, there's some really uncanny stuff. I mean, there are going to be people that get lost in the woods and get eaten by a bear. Sure, that happens. But it's just the sheer number of people that have gone missing. You're talking, I mean, when we did the show, the number that we were using was 16,000 since 1988. So it was like, less than a 30-year period of time. You only have the population up there is about the size of the city of San Francisco. So for that many people to go missing up there, I mean, that's a lot. And people go out in the woods and get lost, and there are kidnappings and things like that. But the number is too big. And some of the stories that come back again, hey, I was walking next to my friend, and all of a sudden they disappeared and they weren't there.
Wow.
You had one guy. It was in the middle of it's called the Mount Marathon Race. They run it every year in Seward, Alaska. And in the middle of the race, the guy disappeared. Gone. Like this is the public event. Where did he go? And everybody's out looking for him. It's like, what in the world?
So he didn't fall through ice. He didn't trip over something and a bear grabbed him. He didn't just gone.
Just gone.
And there were people around him.
Yeah, there's people there, and where'd he go? It's bizarre. Some of the airplanes that have gone missing. I mean, the most one of the highest profile disappearances that we've had. Hale Boggs, Nick Baggage. I mean, Boggs was the House Majority Leader at the time, and this was 1972, and all of a sudden the plane just goes missing. I mean, they have an idea about where it was, and biggest search and rescue mission at that point in our history. They're using spy planes and all kinds of stuff. This is very high profile. Nothing to this day has ever been found. Now, they have found all kinds of planes through that pass that have gone down since then, and they have found wreckage and all. They've never found one shred of anything from that plane. Another one, 1950. And at that point, the one in 1950 was a Douglas Skymaster. It had been the largest search and rescue mission at that point, 22 years beforehand. And they had even got Canadians in on that because it was a little bit over the Canadian border, but still in what we call the Alaska Triangle because of the way it's situated. And U.S. military and Canadian forces were doing joint military exercises at the time. So they pulled them all off of that to find this thing that had gone missing. Never found one shred of anything of it. Now, a week or two later, there was another smaller plane that went down in the same area that they thought the Douglas Skymaster may have gone down in. Found that right away, not a problem. But no massive airplane. Yeah, it was carrying 44 people. Now, on either side of that event, just before and just after that Skymaster went missing, there were reported UFO sightings.
Wow.
Some people believe that the Douglas Skymaster disappeared through a portal, either to some other dimension. And that's basically where they left it. It went through a portal, some other dimension. I've added to that, well, but also maybe to another point in time. And if it went through a portal to some other point in time, or they throw out there, or some other place in the universe, you know, because it could have been a wormhole. But I also throw out there, it could have been another point in time. And if it did, then we have to ask ourselves, okay, when in time did it go? Did it go to the future or the past? I mean, either could have been. But I throw this out there as, you know, just food for thought. Let's say it went backwards in time, and we'll throw out an arbitrary number like 500 years. Well, if it went back in time 500 years ago, what would a giant airplane like that look like to the indigenous peoples of the area at that time? Because they had no idea, no context whatsoever of an airplane. They would think it was some giant, massive bird, very loud and thunderous in nature. So is this where some of our Thunderbird legends come from, that they are actually airplanes from what would be their future coming to their time? Those years ago.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because even old paintings, you know, with Mary and some of these old paintings from religious paintings or just paintings, in the background, you see like something flying or something like that. Maybe something like this is, like you said, maybe it's going back in time.
Yeah.
You know, but wouldn't there be some sort of wreckage? In, you know, we'll find now, like, well, 500 years later.
Yeah, 500 years later, if it crashed into, you're up there in Alaska and Canada, it could be under the ice, like, you know, far underground under the ice. Yeah, at this point.
Yeah.
Well, they keep mentioning that there's like a whole city underneath the ice near Alaska. You know, they keep talking about how there's like the government has some big conspiracy that they're trying to hide whatever they're doing there. There's aliens under the ice. There's
the Black Pyramid and all that. Yeah.
That's interesting. Wow.
Yeah, and it's hard to prove that or substantiate a lot of that, because you got a handful of anecdotal stories that it comes down to, and the same is true of me. You know, I have all kinds of stories of things that I've seen and experienced and all that. So it's like, do you trust me? Because some of this stuff I can't prove happened. So you got to take my story at my word. And so the same thing with these other people that are saying, like, you know, hey, I saw the Black Pyramid, or, you know, my dad had these stories of, you know, being down there and seeing these, you know, the aliens working with the military. You know, so do you trust a person that's telling you? A lot of times that's what it ends up coming down to.
Wow.
You
make me think tonight. You make me think about a lot of stuff. I'm just like, wow, you know, stuff I believed in the past, and, you know, just opening up more, I guess, of my mind.
He's thinking too much.
Yeah. It's hard to think, you know. It is sometimes, actually.
Yeah, I'm not supposed to think this hard.
You got a solar panel now. You can start using it a little. But there are now so many triangles. Like, you know, there's the Bermuda Triangle, the Alaska Triangle, there's the Bridgewater Triangle, and it's
you know, here's the thing. I mean, we're calling them triangles now, and that's because of the Bermuda Triangle. That was it was labeled that that started kind of proliferating there in the 1950s, became big in the 60s, and so that became a label that they stuck on, because they started noticing that a lot of this, you know, strange activity, these disappearances, and all these things happened in a kind of a triangular shape there. You know, in that area of the world. Well, same thing with these other locations. There's always been strange activity happening in these areas. It's not like we decided just to suddenly, label something a triangle because, we saw an alien here in I don't know, 1974. So now we're going to label it a triangle. It's not that. You look at some of these, like what we call the Dragon's Triangle out there by Japan. They also call it the Dragon Sea or the Devil Sea. But that's been, they've been talking about that one for thousands of years. And they call it the Dragon Sea because the ancient Chinese, like 1000 BC or whatever the exact year is, we're talking about there were dragons under the sea because of all the strange things that happened there.
Right.
You had Kublai Khan, who was the grandson of Genghis Khan. He twice launched invasions of Japan across this sea, and both times massive storms blew up and knocked his entire fleet down twice. And so they called those the kamikaze winds, but they blamed it on that particular sea. And then because so many things kept happening in this area of water, it was the early 1950s, and the Japanese government actually sent out a scientific team into those waters to study it, and poof, lost the scientific team. So they just declared, okay, this area is dangerous. We recommend you not sail through here. So they send out a science team to go there, and the science team gets lost. But that's stuff that's been happening there for all of this time, long before people were reporting things about Bermuda. I mean, the first report we really have about the Bermuda Triangle is Christopher Columbus. When he sailed through there in 1492, he was having bizarre compass readings. There was fire falling from the sky. He talked about little lights on the water. He described them as candles that were rising, and then they'd fall back down again. So he saw all kinds of weird stuff out there. And those are our earliest reports out there. But yeah, all of these locations have been reporting things for decades, hundreds of years, thousands of years. We've just been now putting the name triangle after it.
Yeah.
Well, there's even like
people associated with it better because of the Bermuda Triangle.
There are two in like the New England area alone. You have the Bridgewater Triangle and the Bennington Triangle, and that's just like Native American mounds, burial mounds. And then they're saying that there are spirits, there are UFO sightings or UAP sightings. You have Sasquatch. There's everything that you can imagine in these two areas, and people don't even know about Bennington. They're talking about Bridgewater. So
right? Yeah, Bennington's not as well known. Yeah, but it's interesting because the other week Ronnie and I were just talking about Bennington on Connecting the Universe. But here's the thing about the triangle areas and any of these areas of high strangeness. There's a reason for it happening. And that's because of the high electromagnetic activity in the area. So essentially what's happening in these areas is it starts at the Earth's core. You have a molten ball of iron that's spinning and spinning and spinning. It's creating a magnetic field that comes out from the Earth, and it's a good thing because it protects us from the solar wind. That's why we've been having these auroras and things like this lately, is because the solar wind's hammering off the ionosphere and the magnetic protection of the Earth, and we see these wonderful lights. It's great. So that protects us. Otherwise, we would get fried by those solar winds. But as that magnetism passes through the Earth, it is passing through the mantles, passing through the crust, and as it passes through, it interacts with different metals and minerals. And depending on what it interacts with, the type of metal or mineral, and how big that deposit is going to create other localized electromagnetic fields. And so that's what's going on in these, what we're calling triangle areas, is there somewhere under the ground, there is some sort of metal or mineral deposit that magnetism is interacting with and creating these strange electromagnetic fields that you're either seeing as paranormal or supernatural activity. It's opening things like portals. The UFOs seem to be attracted to it. These other different types of creatures seem to be attracted to it as well. And there you go. So we look at it as like, oh, strange stuff is happening here. It's actually pretty natural. It's really not supernatural. It's actually rather natural. It's just not stuff we normally see on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. And that's why we call it paranormal.
Right.
Because if we can't understand it, we label it that.
Right.
You know, don't understand it or you can't explain it. No, it's paranormal. It's not natural. Some stuff is natural, and it's the way it is. It's like, well, since we don't understand it, you know. So,
Yep.
My friend, I'm gonna put Ron's thing up there.
Yeah, I was just going to do that too.
Hey, Ron. Good to see you. Yeah, it's been a little while, but yeah.
Yeah, Ron.
Ron's a good dude.
Yeah.
He is. Great guy.
So you know about Staticom, so.
Yeah.
Okay. And we'll go for Todd.
Before Amelia Earhart play may have been phone. I haven't seen a confirmation. There's been a lot of speculation about Amelia Earhart over the years, but I haven't seen any real confirmation on that. Whether, and they're great theories. They make a lot of sense, but as far as like that actual final confirmation, yeah, it's hard to say.
Yeah,
I don't think that she would ever hide or like, take her plane someplace and just land and live out her life someplace, because she would want people to know that she made it someplace or she's, landed or whatever. I mean, I could see if she got lost and she had no way to let people know who she was or where she was. That's a different story. But I don't think she would ever just live out her life someplace and not tell people if she was able to.
Yeah, I kind of lean more toward the side there's some sort of accident or something. Yeah. Yeah, and the idea of, okay, was this an island where she lived? Maybe, but I don't think that was like her goal to go there and, yeah, like you said, live out the rest of her life there. Yeah. Yeah. And maybe she did live the rest of her life there, but I don't think it was by choice.
Yeah, probably wasn't by choice. Because a woman like that, her life was flying planes. So she'd be on the next plane flying it somewhere. That was her, and she's flying. A woman flying back then wasn't common. So if somebody seen a woman flying a plane, who's that? And they would bring attention to her.
Yeah, and she was inspiring other women and all that. And yeah, the idea of I'm going to go to this island and just live out the rest of my life. Well, you never get to fly a plane again, and that was her passion. So yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
It doesn't make sense at all.
She would absolutely want people to know.
Yeah, I think she ran out of gas or whatever because of the winds and everything and went down. So
that's too bad. That really is.
Yep.
So
I haven't seen anything. But if we do, you'll hear it first. Right here.
We're right here. Next week, we're interviewing Amelia Earhart.
Yes. Don't say that. That's going to be a huge rumor and gossip. Now it's going to be spread all over the place.
Yeah, I was going to go, oh, no. Yeah, next week we're going to have like...
Hey, now you got to make that happen. Yep.
Yeah.
We're going to dress she'll be...
All you have to do is go to the triangle, hit that portal, go back in time, interview her. Yeah.
That's it.
Well, now you have to be part of it too.
With the portal.
I'll be like Dora the Explorer. Anthony, you could be the monkey.
Oh, thank you.
We need backpack.
Yeah.
Backpack.
Yep.
Definitely backpack.
But I've seen pictures and I think they're all doctored up. But they show pictures of people like in the past, but they were dressed like in modern, or people looking like they're on cell phones and stuff. Do you believe that could be real?
So a couple of those, I mean, you can okay. The one with the cell phone was there was a technology that they were experimenting with at the time. So it wasn't a cell phone as we know it today, but it was a type of technology that they were testing out. So that's what that one is. The one what they call the time traveling hipster. Now that came out of, I think it was the Braylorn Museum in Canada. It's a legit photo. Nothing's actually been doctored with it. The thing is that most of the stuff that he's wearing and he's carrying, it does look a little bit more modern. The skeptics of it say that, well, technically those wraparound sunglasses were available at the time. Not like they were popular. There weren't too many around, but they were available. The camera that he was holding, Kodak had a type of camera like that available at the time. Again, Pretty rare. Not too many people actually owned those. And then the shirt that he's wearing, which they say would have been like a silk screen shirt or whatever. They try to say, well, the people that the skeptics trying to debunk it are saying, well, it could have been. It's very reminiscent of the type of shirt that the Montreal Maroons, a hockey team, had. But when I did, okay, fine, wraparound sunglasses, camera, okay, you got me there. But that Montreal Maroons shirt that they're saying that was a hockey team from the 1920s, which would have been like 20 years before that photo was taken. Plus, the color scheme is off. It would have had to have been some sort of alternate uniform, because when you look back at the actual uniforms of the Montreal Maroons, the color schemes don't match. So it's like maybe some rare alternate uniform, but they didn't really do a lot of alternate uniforms back then like we do today. Every team has like 5 different uniforms per each season now because marketing. So that's the one where it's like, I don't know. So he was either really just hipster, just kind of like cutting edge on, he was Mr. Popular or something, and he had the money. I don't know. But jury's out for me on that. I kind of lean toward that. Yeah, he was there at the time, and he just. But also the thing is, why would this guy looking like that? You look at everybody else. They were there for a bridge opening, like they were reopening some bridge across the river. So I guess that's why he had the camera, so he could take a photo of it. But he looks so different than everybody else.
Yeah, I see that photo. I'm like, I don't know, but the way things could be doctored up now, they could make a whole photo and do that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Well, and that one I know for a fact is not doctored, but yeah, there are other ones that people do doctor, and it's really hard these days, which is why I was mentioning earlier. It's like these days, it's like, do you trust the person? Because you got Photoshop, you have all these graphic programs and everything that you can make everything look absolutely real.
Yeah, so, AI can change anything.
AI can change stuff. Yeah. So do I trust the person that it's coming from at this point?
Yeah, like I say, even when I get people send me their photographs or some kind of evidence, I have to really know the person. I got to know the location, because, you see a shadow and it's like, is that put in there, or some like a perfect full body apparition?
Yeah.
And you're looking at it and like, I want to say yes, but I don't know this person. And because nowadays too, somebody send you something they doctored up just to see your credibility too.
Right.
You look like a fool. So
I used to. So back in the day, you had those. I forget the name of the app. We're talking again like 12 years ago or whatever. But basically, you could take like a little ghost and throw it onto your photo or whatever. And I kept one of those on my phone, not because I was creating the photos, but because people were sending me photos that they use that app on. My ex-brother-in-law did that to me one night. I was out with the group, and he was sending me some text messages, and he's like, "Oh, hey, got this great photo. My brother captured this," and it was outside a building, and there's this looks like an apparition of a guy with a hat and a jacket on, and so I took the photo. I'm like, oh, I recognize that. I took the photo. I added a bunch more of those guys in the hat. You mean, oh, look, there's a whole bunch more of those guys now.
They're hanging out waiting for beers.
Yeah. So I used to keep that app on my phone just to debunk what people were sending me. But I think people kind of caught on that it's a bogus app, and they stopped using it. I haven't seen any of those photos for a long time.
Yeah, I remember those apps. But yeah, and even with those apps, people sending you stuff, and you're like,
yeah,
I don't think so. And then then you have somebody that had something, and you don't want to really look at it. Then you give them evidence, and it's like, I don't think that's really. And then they get mad at you. You know?
Well, and even like a lot of the YouTube videos these days, where people are doing some magnificent jobs of like rigging up their house and stuff like that. Like you should go into special effects on movies.
Yeah, exactly. There's something how these people try to make you look stupid.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you're out there for just to look, you know, for evidence or something, and then these people just trying to like make you, because they don't believe. That means they got to try to disprove you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you know, I mean, over the years, it's like you take, you know, thousands and thousands of photos, you got thousands and thousands of hours of video footage, and you end up with a handful, you know, that even looking at it today, it's like, I still wonder, is that or is that not? You know, I have a couple of really good ones, but yeah, but of the handful, there's still a few that I'm like, I'm not sure. Yeah.
Through the years, I got some good evidence and stuff like that, but
Yeah,
there's still evidence I still question when I
sure.
get it. You know. So.
Mike, did you go to school for anything related to this? Like, did you go to, like, were you a chemistry major and all of a sudden now you're like doing this, or something completely unrelated?
My degree is in simulation programming. So I was in the IT industry for over 30 years. So I have used that knowledge when I've talked about the simulated universe, which I do talk about in the last couple of books, like the A Walk in the Shadows and the Time Travel. I do talk about the simulated universe there. That's like the only bit where I use that degree in this, or talking about AI, because AI has really started to come into this a bit more. And that's basically what simulation programming is you're programming AI. So yeah, a little, but.
Do your parents complain about that?
No. Not really, no. Because I got my degree later on in life. I went into the Air Force straight out of high school.
Okay.
So, and it was, I was already out of the Air Force working in the civilian sector when I decided to go back and get my degree to try to enhance my career path. I mean, I got a bunch of great on-the-job training in the Air Force, and I was able to get a good job when I got out. And it was in the middle of the big tech boom, which was great. So it's like you could find a IT job anywhere, which was awesome. And then I just got a lot more experience and all that. But I needed that kind of check the box here. Do you have a degree in computer science or related field? And I couldn't check that box. Okay, I got all these certifications and stuff, and I got all this experience, but I needed to check that box. But I was always interested in that type of computer programming, and so I went down that path, got my degree, and I'll say, well, check that box. But I learned some interesting things along the way too about how all that works. Yeah.
That's a good thing to have in your background, actually, because of everything that's happening now.
Go-to piece of equipment. I believe your body is your best piece of equipment.
Good answer.
Trust,
I like
trust
that.
your instincts.
Yeah.
As far as technology, I try to keep it simple. I ended up, there was a time there where I was getting all the gadgets and, trying to see it, what works and, how might be able to benefit. But I just really, I pared it all back down. It's like, okay, camera, audio recorder, flashlight for safety. And I mean, I might have like a tri-field meter or something like that with me. Notepad and pen. I think people forget notepad and pen a lot. That's about it. I mean, I've done some interesting other things though, like kind of alternative methods. Like we're in the Great Pyramid of Giza, and I don't really want you doing paranormal investigations there, but you can kind of slyly do a few things. So, and I wasn't necessarily doing a paranormal investigation, but what I was trying to do was there were reports that the Great Pyramid was tuned to the key of F sharp. So, we get to and there's a great spot to do this. You get to the antechamber, which is between the Grand Gallery and the King's Chamber. And you just do a sacred Om from there. And I had on me a chromatic tuner and a tuning fork that was F sharp. And chromatic tuner came up F sharp, and the tuning fork was buzzing is ringing in my hand. It was like, okay, that's cool. There you go. Yeah.
This is G. Yeah. Yeah, through the years, I tried everything I could think of. Because my background's in construction, electrician. I always tried something new,
Sure.
and I always tried. I figured, why not? I got so many pieces of equipment that I tried, I didn't use, or I used them maybe once or twice, and I still got them sitting here. But
Yep.
yeah, it's
Yeah, why not? I mean, just try stuff. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and it helps. Sometimes it really helps when you do these things, and you find it out.
Yeah, we did some. There's also a method that we used at Mineral Springs Hotel, and friend of mine that does. He's done a lot of deep sea diving. He's actually seen, paranormal activity down in old shipwrecks and stuff like that. So he has a method for like water-based EVP. So when we were at Mineral Springs Hotel in Alton, you stand. There's this one area, one of the lower levels, where there's a fountain at the end of a hall. You stand back far enough from that, and you between the lup 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 of the water, you can actually get voices coming across. And so, we're throwing it questions like, where are you from? St. Louis, which is like right across the river. Like, okay.
Wow.
And you get, how old are you? And stuff like, and we could get answers off of that. And that's just a fountain running water,
Yeah.
And that's like a white noise that actually help to manifest, the voices coming out. And, so it's a white noise process. That's interesting.
Yeah. Rather than using the electronic box. I mean, we kind of have it, there's a charge there anyway, because you're talking, okay, you got the water, but you also have these limestone bluffs that are right there. Okay, and this hotel they call it Mineral Springs Hotel because it's sitting on top of a mineral spring. In fact, the cistern is still, well, the mechanism's gone, but it's still there in the sub basement. It's a hole in the ground. They've kind of filled in with a bunch of junk, but it's still, you have a hole in the ground into the limestone right along the Mississippi River. So there's a lot of energy right there.
Yeah, the limestone and the water it's drawing them in.
Yep. Yeah, running water is always a draw also. Then you got the limestone that holds the energy.
Yep.
So you got double base there.
So who are they? Where did they come from? Why are they there? Did you get any answers?
Yeah, I mean, you have a lot of activity there, a lot of different people. So, and for a variety of different reasons. I mean, you have people that had lived at the hotel, operated there. You've got the one little girl that is upstairs, and we actually saw her once. I mean, a lot of people reported in the one room upstairs there was this little girl that would hang out there, and some people have teddy bears and toys and all kinds of stuff that's up there. And I had done a number of investigations in that room, nothing going on. It's like further down the hall, you have Pearl's room, which was a confirmed suicide. And then another room down that hall, Molly, where she had a tragic tale. I can't get into too many details on that. I've been asked not to tell too many details of her story, but she had a tragic tale in another room down the hall. So those two, very, very interactive. The one particular night, we're just done. I'd hosted an event that particular evening. We were wrapping up, just a few of us left, and we were in Pearl's room, just doing some EVP work. And from down the hall, we start hearing, some noises. Go out there, take a look, and all of a sudden see this smoke billowing up from down the end of the hallway. I was like, whoa, what's going on there? At first you're thinking smoke, fire. You're not smelling smoke. And then it starts doing something weird anyway. So as it's coming down the hallway, it starts like creeping up the wall on the right-hand side, and then creep back down and creep back up. It's like, okay, that's not smoke from a fire. What the heck is that? It's coming closer and closer the whole time. And then finally, this one time, as it creeps up that wall on the right-hand side, it morphed into an apparition of a little girl. I was like, whoa, okay. And then the rest had joined me by then, and they all see her. And they're like, come closer, come closer. It's like 5 of us that are all seeing her, and come closer. And she stopped right at the doorway to that room where everybody had been reporting, experiencing the girl. So it's like, here we are actually seeing her, and she would only go as far as that particular room. And that was really kind of our experience with her. But what's interesting is we all saw her a little bit differently too, because I saw her fully formed at her head down to about her knees, and then she dissipated away. Another saw her like fully formed at the feet and dissipated away at the head. So, so that kind of led me, for one, that helped to kind of confirm that, okay, some of these shadows that we are seeing and witnessing are actually human spirits, because I just saw an apparition of a little girl. I just saw the little girl spirit morph out of the smoke, just morphed out of the shadow. But then secondly, a theory that I've been working with about how, how we all end up seeing some of this phenomenon very, very differently. Like I could be standing right here and I say, hey, you see that over in the corner there? No. And the other person with me, no, I don't see it at all. And I believe that has to do with the fact that we all resonate at a little bit of a different frequency. There's some scientific studies back in the late 90s that standing human resonance is anywhere between 9 to 16 hertz. We're all a little different. Same thing with these entities that we are seeing. They all have their own resonance as well. So if I don't know, if I'm resonating at a 10, the girl's resonating at a 14 or whatever, I'm going to have a harder chance of seeing her. But if my buddy over here is at 13, he might have a better chance. So, that kind of all plays into it, as well as that personal resonance and frequency.
That makes a lot of sense, because they do also say that if you're vibrating on a level of around here, you're not going to want to be around people who vibrate at a level around here. Right. You want to be around people who vibrate around here, or people who are around here. Same thing.
Right. And I think we start recognizing resonance too. So like, I see a lot more shadows than apparitions. I mean, I do see some apparitions on occasion, but you generally see shadows, where other people see more apparitions than shadows. And you have some people that don't see anything, but I think like my frequency has become tuned into that, or my resonance become tuned into that resonance of whatever that frequency of the shadow is. And I think that goes back to my early experiences. That one that I had when I was 8, the other ones that I experienced when I was 13, is like my resonance kind of recognizes that now. So when I go out on paranormal investigations and put myself into some of those situations, my personal resonance would recognize that, there's something here, and would kind of tune into that frequency, and like, boom, okay, well, yeah, there's a shadow right there,
regardless of whether it's a positive or negative shadow.
Right.
It's just the color or the opaqueness of whatever it is.
That makes sense, because some people see things where, and other people don't, and they both might be psychics, but one person resonates with that thing, that person or the spirit or whatever it might be, when the other one doesn't. So that's very interesting.
We have to take into account that we're all different. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the way that I see things, and my eyes work differently than yours. It looks like all three of us wear glasses. I'm wearing contacts right now, but I actually have terrible vision without my contacts. But we all see color differently too.
Right.
So and the human eye only sees into a very narrow band of the visible spectrum, but some of us are able to see a little bit outside of it, and even our periphery. We can see slightly into the infrared in our periphery, and from the periphery it takes in more light, which is why sometimes we see something out of the corner of our eye, we turn and look, and it seems like it's gone, but it's probably not really gone. It's just because we're taking in more light from the sides.
Yeah.
Because I actually draw what I see. And,
okay.
And I see and I draw what I see, and it's interesting because I have other people that I draw, and they say, "Oh, that looks like something that was there," but other people with me don't see. It's like, I find it so interesting that makes more sense to me now.
Yeah,
everybody's at a different frequency.
So I see the question down there from Lourdes. And hi.
And he did mention.
Good to see you too.
I meant to say, I hope this makes sense.
I get it. I get the question. So I believe you're talking about the fountains, if the voices that we got off the fountains or the fountain, or was it nature's doing this thing? So, I mean, the water, lap, 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 that was nature doing its thing. The voice to come across, it needs a carrier. So, basically the water in essentially a frequency, a wavelength of the water doing that kind of churning, for lack of a better term, that became the carrier signal for the voice coming from whether it's another dimension, another point in time. We don't exactly know where it was coming from. Yes, we asked them, where did you come from? Okay, St. Louis, but we don't know where in time, or possibly even dimension that the speaker was coming from, but that became the carrier wave for the voice.
That's interesting because when you put waves through any kind of water, it's not straight. It's usually different angles and everything. It's not a straight. They shoot different ways. It could be going this way, then to the left, to the right. It's not a straight wave.
Right.
The water breaks it up. That's wild. That's wild. I really think that's wild because I always wanted to do an investigation underwater.
Yeah, no, you can definitely do that. Yeah,
that'd be underwater. Just go underneath and see what you could get. You know, but if I go underwater now, they're gonna harpoon me. So, I stay away from the beaches and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I personally try not to do too much in water. I can swim, but I generally sink like a rock. So
I swim better underwater than above water. So
okay.
Well, I was always wanted to do an investigation of the water. I feel there's so much stuff under that sea or under the water. Because lives were lost there too. You know, the ships and everything else.
Yeah. Look at the Titanic. It was one of the biggest losses. You know, there's emotion there.
I'm sure it is quite haunted down there, but considering what happened with that little sub, no thing. And you know, crazy thing is, I actually did look into that just before that accident, because they had put out, they had released, it was like a 20-minute long video of just like the sub, not with anybody in it, of going down there through the Titanic wreckage, and it was fascinating. You know, you could see chandeliers and all kinds of stuff. It was great footage. But then they also had the piece, you know, looking through their website, oh, this is, you know, cool, that they're down there doing this. And then you see on their website, oh wow, they're actually offering tours to go down there. That's cool. So looking through it, and it's like, oh, $200,000. Yeah, I don't quite have that. I'll save up for that. And then unfortunately the accident happened. So
yeah,
you lose change at the end of the day. Take all you lose change and put in a piggy bank, and then after a couple of years you go.
I often wonder if that was kind of like a thing where it was, you know, this happened once before. You're going to kind of play with fire.
Let's not tempt fate. I mean, they had done a couple of successful excursions down there, but yeah, it's.
It didn't look super safe to begin with.
No, it was just a little thing. But, you know, the same thing happened when we tried to go to space. You know, we're messing with forces that humans aren't used to messing with. So, yeah, we don't usually send humans that far into the ocean, just like we didn't used to send humans up into space like that. So, I mean, over time, we might be able to figure out how to better do that. But, yeah. It's going to be a while now because of that particular accident. It's going to be a long time now.
Pressure and everything else down there. That's interesting. But I still like to go investigate under the water. Why not?
No, I think it would be fascinating. There's so much, you know, there's a lot of other things under there besides just shipwrecks. I mean, there's old, you know, towns that have been, you know, because of the way the earth has changed over, you know, thousands of years. There's you know, old cities, old ruins, and things like this underwater that would be wonderful to explore. You know, they have found off of the coast of Cuba, they found pyramids down there in ancient city. Off of the coast of India, there was a legendary, I forget the name of it now. There's a legendary city that people said, never existed. Boom, they ended up finding it a few years ago. So to be able to go down there and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
There was something I was watching the other day. I don't know if it was on the History Channel, but there was an entire city that was covered over by, there was a flood, and they found an entire city, like everything, general store, the whole gambit, the whole thing was there. And they found that it wasn't an actual flood. They flooded it on purpose because they didn't want people to know about these terrible things that were done there.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which was really interesting.
That's
and I was
interesting.
like, let's go. Yeah.
The other thing you'll see is like when they build dams, a lot of times they'll move everybody out because they're like, well, we're putting in this dam. It's going to flood out your entire town. So you need to get out. And so the entire town gets flooded. All the homes, all the stores, the church, the cemeteries. Yeah.
There's a case that actually happened, and they actually
Johnstown.
They actually
twice
down in the cemetery, and you go down there and you can see tombstones still there and buildings and everything. So.
Well, and there's another triangle called the Jersey Triangle. It's just a reservoir that a lot of people have. It basically flooded out the little town that was there, so the town's underneath, and then a lot of people have mysteriously gone missing while out there fishing. So
really,
yep.
Well, the whole Jersey, people disappear all the time there. Yeah, anywhere. I'm from Queens, so Jersey.
Okay. Yeah.
As long as you're fine, that's all that matters.
That's all that matters. Anthony's good to go. So
I'm in Queens here. Hey, I'm good. My friends.
But Johnstown, Pennsylvania, that happened, and I think everyone died in the town. It just it rushed so quickly that everything was wiped, and it happened twice.
Wow.
You would think that they would do something, and that would be a really crazy place to investigate, I think.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to go do that. You have to get there. Like I said, I'm going there with a snorkel. Snorkel
it's still flooded.
Snorkel and say too. Hey, why not?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, do you have anything coming up that you want to talk about? Because it's getting close to the hour.
Oh my gosh. What do I have coming? Because we just had the big event with Parapsychon. Middle of May, Mansfield, Ohio State Reformatory. They do it every year. Parapsychon. It's one of my favorite events of the year. So we just had that. A lot of my summer I have some filming to do with Gaia TV coming up here in a couple of weeks, and then my summer is essentially going to be writing the new book until Michigan Paracon up there in Sault Ste. Marie. What is that, like the 21st, 22nd, something like that of August. I'll be doing Atlanta down in the Atlanta, Georgia area. It's, I think, officially Buford, Georgia. So I have those couple of events coming up here. I have just announced here the other day is the Mysteries of the Black Force Germany tour that we're doing. So you can get that information. Just go to events and tours on my website. You can click right into there.
The promo I put for you on Facebook, I put that on there.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That'll work. Yep. Yeah, so that's next April 14th to the 23rd. Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to that because that part of my heritage is right around that area. So that'll be cool.
That's interesting. That's another country that would be interesting to investigate at.
Germany, yeah, that would be great.
They got castles too.
A lot of them. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Imagine that's another. I mean, I would love to do a castle too, a real castle. Also nice.
Also, something I really enjoyed about our tour in Ireland a couple of years ago. There was, a lot of the castles there that you go and you tour, it's like, they kind of have the walkthrough and they give you the tour and all that. You can kind of walk around a little bit and all that sort of thing. But there was one that was called Temple Michael, and it was kind of off the beaten path a little bit, completely abandoned. was a Templar stronghold like back in the 12th century, and we basically had free reign of that place. We're climbing through the thing, and all these rooms and everything. Oh, it was wonderful. Yeah, loved it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That's awesome. Even in some great places to you've been around the world.
Yeah, I try.
You try.
Doing a bit more of that over the last few years, kind of spreading out, because I've done most of the United States. I've been to all but 2 states. So now it's time to go to other places around the world.
Well, you only get New York and New Jersey.
I've been there plenty of times.
Yeah, who wants to go there? Hey,
the one is Hawaii, and the other is North Dakota.
Oh, that's totally two totally different states.
Yep.
North Dakota. Oh, I would love to do that too. I haven't been I did most of the New England area, some of the West Virginia and stuff like that, but I want to venture out sometime.
Yeah.
But I've been around for a long time, so I've done a lot of stuff.
You've done a lot. That's great.
Hey, you only get to live in this meat suit one time, so you better do as much as you can.
No, we get the next.
We have a very important question that we have to ask on every show, and Todd and Carmela have to know this. Okay. Cannolis or tiramisu?
That's a tough one. Well, here's okay. I'll answer it this way: tiramisu if I'm drinking coffee, cannoli if I'm drinking wine.
Okay, we'll give you that one.
All right.
Okay.
There's an ongoing bet. I'm a tiramisu girl.
I like them both, so that's a hard call. So it just depends
on what I'm drinking. Both also, but
I go on investigations. I bring cannolis for everybody.
Oh, all right, nice.
So they like that, and it's like, hey, that's how I keep friends too.
And that's Todd and Carmela send them to everyone, whatever they are.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had them on the show, and during the show, they send me my wife walks in, and there's a box of cannolis, and I was like, "What's this?" and it's from Todd and Camilla.
Nice.
On the show.
Very cool.
Oh well, of course I had to eat them on the show.
Oh, of course, yeah, that's great.
That's how we do things here.
Yeah.
So. I'm going to take all of your social media that I put into the advertising. I'm going to put this in at the end of the show once we sign off, so everybody can see all of your social media and follow you. And I'm going to have to start buying some of your books and reading. And when I'm in Key West, I'm going to just indulge in all of that when I'm on the beach.
I appreciate that.
You're very welcome. Anything else you'd like to say before we end the show?
No, I mean, if you're giving them all my links and everything, MikeRickSecker.com and ConnectedUniversePortal.com, that's it. Yeah. No, I just appreciate being here tonight and getting a chance to speak with you and your audience. Yeah.
It was so much fun having you. It was so appreciative. You have no idea.
Yeah, you taught me a lot. And my mind open is very dangerous.
It is. He has no idea, Anthony. We had a great time, and you are welcome back anytime with us, obviously.
Thank you.
So put our thing on for my
this is another episode of Dimensions of the Supernatural. Stay tuned with us Thursday nights from 7:30 to 9:30. And I am Maureen Grudzinski, a little witchy. That's Anthony Simonelli. Just to forget about it. And that is Mike RICKSECKER. Anthony.
Hey, I'm going to do this.
Hey, how you doing?
We'll see you next week. Have a great night, guys.
I love that. Don't forget, God.
Forget about it.
It's like I say, at the end of the show, I always have to say, so be safe out there. You want to look for ghosts, you don't want to be a ghost. Forget about it. Hey.
Forget about it.